What is up? Welcome to the Existential Stoic Podcast. Do you have dreams, but they're just not that big? You know, do you have goals and then you achieve them and you don't know what to do? Well, today you're in luck because we're going to talk about how to dream big in this quick fix. I'm Danny here, my buddy Randy. What's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny.
Yeah, why do you think it's important to dream, not just dream, but because we all know we should follow our dreams and pursue our passions and do all this crap, but why dream big?
Well, I actually read a book on a regular basis called The Magic of Thinking Big. And
Oh,
it
nice.
starts with a story about I think some guy working in an office, and they have this big presentation with the company, and they bring this guy up on stage, and they're like, "You see this guy here? Um, Last year he made about 10 times what the rest of you made on average. Now, is he 10 times better than you? No. Is he 10 times smarter than you? No. Is he 10 times, does he get stuff done 10 times faster than you? No. Does he work 10 times harder than you? No. As a matter of fact, he takes more vacation than most of you. So what's the difference? He thinks 10 times bigger. So I think that is important. And also with our dreams, because, if you don't shoot for the stars, how could you possibly hit them?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, dude. It is about like, I think because when we dream, we also set ourselves expectations of what's going to happen. And if they're not big, we're limiting ourselves from the get-go, like out the gate. And then, it's just like we shouldn't be surprised when big things don't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But a lot of people are held back because they're like, but what if I fail?
Yeah.
What if I try and I don't? And it's like you're better off at least going for it and failing than never going for it at all. Like,
Well,
granted,
what's the
yeah.
saying, right? Like you'll never regret. It's not the things that you failed at that you'll regret, but it's the things that you never tried,
Mhm.
right? Something
Yeah,
like that. I think there's
absolutely.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, like
it's
I mean,
true.
I wasted a lot of time and money going to veterinary school, and it wasn't for me. But a lot of people would come to me and they'd be like, "Oh, can you write me a reference letter?" And I'd be like, "You don't want to go to vet school; it costs too much." And they'd be like, "No, this is like what I'm supposed to do. I know since I was a child this was supposed to do." And I'm like, "Okay, fine, do it. Like, go enjoy it. Because if you
Good luck.
don't, you'll regret it the rest of your life. At least
Yeah,
do it and then find out that it was a huge financial mess afterwards."
you got to learn on your own sometimes.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter what other people tell you. All
yeah.
right, so in this quick fix, we each have three tips. I'm going to start so we can keep this relatively quick. Um, so my first one is remember that no goal is final, and I think this is important because like we normally set goals or we set ambitions, and we think once I get there, we talked about this before, right? Once I get there, I'll be happy. Once I get there, I'll be fulfilled. Once I get there, I'll be complete. But the fact of the matter is life goes on and you're going to have another goal. There's going to be another problem. There's going to be another priority.
The
So
fact of the matter is, when you get there, you're going to be feeling just as shitty as you are right now.
nothing changes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think it's important to keep this in mind because it helps us remember that like even though we might set these waypoints for ourselves, these goals, we should be thinking about beyond them as well. And sometimes it's a really helpful way too to kind of get a sense of like what am I after really? What do I really want? Yeah.
That's true. And also, like, I mean, if you're aiming for something huge, if you're setting a gigantic goal and you miss it and just come up with something like kind of big, that's still a pretty big success. That's a nice win. They get a W
Yeah.
for that one. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
I'm
one. I
pretty
like
sure
that.
that's what happens a lot though, because people do set like huge ambitions, and then like what they end up with is something good. It's not what
Hmm.
they maybe necessarily planned, but hey, that's okay.
Yeah, like most people nowadays want to have every area of their life being perfect. And then every other area of their life is like pretty good, better than mediocre. And that's still good. That's still good. Um, my first one would be how to dream big. What would you do if it were impossible to fail? And this kind of touches back on what I was saying is that a lot of people are scared about failing in the pursuit of their goals. And it's just like, you're going to fail. It's part, like, there was something that I read the other day about mistakes, not about failure. But it's like, we're all human beings and human beings make mistakes. That's like part of the agreement we have living here on Earth. So, like, when you make a mistake, just like chalk it up to experience, dust yourself off, and keep moving on. And it's the same with failure. But I think that when you think about what would you do if it were impossible to fail, it opens up your mind because like a lot of people are like, man, I want to be like a billionaire, and they're like, I would be the next Elon Musk, and it's like, but I can't do that because I'm not Elon Musk and I would fail.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, what if you wouldn't fail? What if you try to do like space Y?
yeah.
Okay, the next SpaceX, you do space Y. Well, why not just go
That
for it?
would
Because
be
who knows?
awesome.
It could be, yeah, it could be, it could be the thing for you.
Space X Y Z. The
Right.
it's funny. I like that too because I think those thought experiments are like one super helpful. They're a super helpful way to kind of like get perspective and think about things differently. But the other thing too is I think like it's a really problematic mindset to think of failure as final. And a lot of people do. They think like, what if I fail or I'll fail and that's the end. So I shouldn't even start. I shouldn't bother. But the fact is like failure is just part of the process. It ends if as long as you keep going, it just becomes part of the route to your success, part of the journey that you're on. And I think we forget that like failure is only final when you give up. That's the only time failure is final. Every other time
Mhm.
it's just you can keep going.
Yeah, and I love those stories of the people who just keep on going, like Ray Kroc from McDonald's in that movie, The Founder. He just
Yeah.
tries again and again and again, fails over and over and over again. He's like, "Come on, just one time," and he gets it. And like, there's a whole bunch of other stories like that where people just like Steve Jobs. I'm reading his biography, and I mean, sure, the Macintosh was a success at first. Apple was a success, but then he had a bunch of failures with Next, the computer that nobody knows about, and then
Yeah.
he finally came back. So like, it's only through failures that you get to success.
Yeah, you learn so much through them too. I think people forget that as well. Like that's part of learning, it's part of the learning process. Nice. My second one is a little bit more abstract, I guess, but don't let ideas and expectations limit you. And what I had in mind was like, you know, there's so many real stories and anecdotes of people who fail because they think they don't belong or they think they don't deserve something or they feel an obligation to do something else entirely so they don't do what they want to do or what they dream to do. There's all these pressures from family, culture, tradition, outside friend groups. Literally everything around us is pressuring us to do things, and it can be very hard to resist that. And they also, everything around us is defining us. And I think you have to define yourself if you're going to dream big. So you have to kind of not let these ideas and expectations around you dictate how you act and who you become.
That's a good one because I mean the honest truth is no one wants you to be successful. Your friends don't want you to be successful because then they'll be jealous of what you have. Even your mom doesn't want you to be successful because she thinks if you're a success, you'll stop calling her. So like literally nobody wants you to be a success. So like you really have to define it for yourself. That's a great one that you had there. Um so that's number two. My
Too.
second one
Yeah.
then, yeah, number two, is what is big enough that you would definitely fail doing it and then do that. It's like
That's a good
I
one.
like yeah, I like that one because it's like, okay, I would definitely fail doing this. And it's like, can you be absolutely certain that you would? No. So like if that's like so big that you would absolutely fail, why don't you go for it? What the hell? What have you got to lose? The worst
Yeah.
worst case scenario is you prove yourself right.
Yeah. I like that one too because it's also like an indirect way of taking the pressure off, and like letting yourself just try something. And I think this I know for myself too, like personally, like I like trying new things. And when I do, I don't have high expectations for me being like expert. I just want to do it and try it and see if I like it. And I try, and as I've gotten older, I've been better at not like prejudging things beforehand. And I think it's a very helpful skill. So like trying something you think you're going to fail at is a really good way to like explore things you just wouldn't normally do and see because you never know what you're going to like. You never know it's going to click with you. And I think it's a really smart way to do it. And it also kind of just gets rid of all the stress of, this needs to be perfect. Instead, it's like, I just got to get through it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I like
Yeah,
that one. Good one.
that's good.
My last one, and I think this is crucial for any dream, but it's be confident in your power to make your dreams a reality. Like, I think this is one of the things I think all struggle with, which is setting limitations on ourselves and limiting ourselves. If we can dream it, chances are we can make it happen. Now, whether we want to put the commitment in, whether we want to put the work in, that might be a different story. But the fact is like, I think the amazing thing about human beings is we can make almost anything happen if we just commit ourselves and motivate ourselves to do it. So you have the power. You have to be confident in yourself first if you're going to pursue any dream, I think.
Yeah, that's a good one. Denzel Washington has a quote, and I can't remember it right now, but it's something like the dreams that are placed in your heart is actually proof from the future that those things are meant for you. That that's like your destiny almost.
I like that.
And
That's a
so
good one. Yeah.
yeah, so those things are planted in there because that's what you're actually supposed to go after, particularly like the deep, dark dreams that you don't want to share with anybody else because you're so afraid of those. Like those are the things that are really, you should go after that because how do you know that that wasn't planted in there for you to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's nothing.
And
Yeah.
if it's something too that you always think about too, it's like it's something you should probably like if it's something that never leaves, that's always nagging. Like, I mean, it's
Hmm.
funny. Like we said it before with programming, like technology. Like I've always been interested in it. So it's kind of like it's funny that I'm now doing it because it's like it's always been there, like in my mind. So just
Yeah.
listening to ourselves and paying attention is helpful.
Dude, but it's so much more fun nowadays than it was back in the day.
Yeah,
Like,
it is,
holy
dude. It's
crap.
so much
I
better.
remember I remember getting books back when I was in university on like Perl to try and learn that programming languages. And it was just like it was a mess because you had this book and nothing in the book ever worked. And yeah, now it's a whole bunch easier. So,
Yeah, it
anyways,
is. It's a lot nicer now, and there's a lot more like tools which make it easier.
oh
Yeah,
my gosh. Yeah.
yeah.
So my last one, How to Dream Big, is what would you do if you had 10 lifetimes? Like most of us don't contemplate how long it is. And we've spoken about that quote previously where it's like you think you can do more than you can do in a year and less than you can do in 10 years. And it's just like we don't grasp the expansiveness of time that we have. Like most of us have probably at least a decade left, maybe 40 years, maybe even longer, 80, 90 years. But like, what if you had 10 of those? What would you do? Because if you take a look at a lot of these like successful people, what they do is they build companies that outlast them.
Yeah.
Look at Apple, outlasted Steve Jobs. Look at a whole
Yeah.
bunch of other companies. Ford Motor Company outlasted Henry Ford. Okay,
Yeah.
so like they all build these companies that outlast them, and so like, what if you started thinking along those lines of like, what could I build that's multi generational? That could get you thinking big.
Oh, I like that too because it's like two ways of looking at it. Like one, like if I had all this time, what could I do? And it's funny because in a certain sense we do. Our life expectancy has gone up significantly from the past, so we do have more time than we did before. And on the other
Mm-hmm.
hand, that idea of legacy, I think, and that can be very motivating for people, wanting to leave a mark, wanting to leave something. I think, the Greeks thought that way. Like that was a big motivation in life was trying to pursue immortality through like action, deed, procreation, all these ways that we try to like leave a legacy of ourselves or a piece of ourselves in the world, even after we're gone. It's a good one. I like that. That can help you
Mm-hmm.
definitely dream big. So there you have it. How to dream big on this quick fix. We will be back later this week with a full length episode. Check us out on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Please like, share, subscribe. It helps us out a lot. And until next time, later, Randy.
Later, Danny.